Hi, Marie, and welcome to the Awaken Your Wise Woman podcast.
Well, thank you for having me. Thrilled to be here.
It's so nice to have you on the podcast. And for guests or listeners who don't know who you are, could you share a little bit about yourself and, yeah, how how you came to be where you are today?
Well, great. So the best way to explain it is probably I'm a former congresswoman and had a kind of an interesting and circuitous route to Congress. So I was not the standard fare, to be sure. I started out in marketing and advertising. I've been an activist and advocate and a volunteer for probably 35 years in various social justice forums. So whether it's women's rights or healthcare rights, health equity, racial equity, all of those things I've been working in for since I was since dirt, as some say. So,
Okay.
so been doing that a lot. But in my professional life, was a marketing and advertising executive. I developed a national nonprofit called Team Up to Stop Bullying about 15 years ago, as a result of one of my kids was horribly bullied,
Mm.
traumatically so. So wrote a book on it, and then built a national nonprofit and advocated laws for as such. Fast forward a couple of years after that, I began hearing that folks wanted me to run for office, and I did. I ran for Congress in 2018, and I lost
Okay.
by 2 points. And then in 2 years later, in 2020, I won by 4 points against three guys. So,
Wow.
yeah, kind of an amazing. I had an amazing team, an amazing team. It was brilliant. So, was in Congress for 2 years, and since then, I was the CEO of a disabilities nonprofit for about a year. And then I turned my attention back to civic engagement, politics, and women's rights, LGBTQ rights, healthcare, mental health, all of the things that I care about deeply. So here we
Mm.
are chatting
Yeah.
about all of that.
All that. Well, and so it sounds like you have been an advocate for yeah, rights for many for a long time. And where did those roots come from? What created that sort of part of you that was really important?
I had really great parents, and conversely and quixotically, they were Red Rock Republicans, right? Very conservative. So the
Oh my
opposite of me.
gosh.
One thing
Funny.
we agreed upon is fairness. That unfairness is horrifying to live with. And so going back in the Wayback Machine, I started doing work with the homeless in high school because I felt like, you know, much of their predicament was not something they brought onto it themselves, right? And that seems
Right.
horribly unfair. So, and that theme worked through college. I worked on equity with a bunch of folks, taught folks that were illiterate how to read, adults. And then I realized, wow, women are really, really getting the short shrift in this country. Like they
Mm,
were like, when I just remember sitting in a class and listening to a lecturer at the University of Wisconsin, and she said something that really opened my eyes. And she said, at that point, this was mid 1980s. She said, we being women have only had the right to vote for a very, very short time. And we had to work on it for 100 years.
right.
And it kind of slapped me across the face, and I never forgot it. Um, and so it was a guidepost. So I think it was a combination of a little bit of DNA, and then the great things I was exposed to through education, good friends, serendipitously, all those things.
Nice, nice. Well, it's such important work, and I know it can feel, I feel like these days, currently, it can feel like what good is my little bit going to do to the world and how things are? And, what is my little, whatever my personal input into trying to make change, how is that going to help? I hear people feeling that way often. I wonder, how you approach that and how you stay engaged if you're still continuing to do this work or even just being
Yeah.
engaged personally. Yeah.
You know what? I think we just look no further than some of our founding principles in this country. Out of many comes everything, right? And it has always worked that way. So we were a bunch of scrappy revolutionary people that didn't have uniforms, didn't know how to shoot a gun, like all those things, right? And we figured it out as we went.
Mm,
And I think that's every time. So it's funny for those that oppose the current president, of which there are many, they are keep asking me, how do we do this? Well, it's not the same playbook as it was in 2017. Of course, we're going to be in opposition. But this time, what we have to realize is that we need to mend and heal this country. And
yeah.
the way we do that is by telling our stories. Don't recite data. Don't say who's wrong. Don't judge, but tell your story. So the story is that you know what that the marginalized are not getting health care. Period.
Right.
Our mortality rates are getting worse. Our maternal mortality rates are getting worse. Our health outcomes are worse. We must have universal health care. We also know every single economic report says when in those countries that have universal child care, guess what happens? Everybody's happier and
Oh my
the
gosh.
economy booms and all these good things happen. Kids are cared for, right? So what I tell everybody is that it is a team sport. We all have to work at it and do it. So if you can make 5 calls a week, do your 5 calls a week. If you can go to protests, go to a protest. If you can write an op-ed to your local paper, do that. But something we can all do every single day is tell our story and listen to our neighbors that we may not agree with. Listen, you don't have to add editorial comment, just say, and then you know what we're going to get to? We're going to build trust. And then after we get to trust, guess what we get to do? We get to commiserate and
Mm,
not judge, but just say, hey, you're hurting too. I don't have the health care I want. Things are too expensive. I can't buy my kid soccer shoes. But come together and commiserate together and love each other as neighbors. And, honestly, if we want to win in 2 years and 4 years, we have to get to a point where we can talk to each other and not blame any one group.
yeah. Yeah. And that feels so far from where we are right now. I mean,
Mhm.
I know obviously there are those I was going to say those of us. I don't mean to make it sound like, oh, I'm so much better, but like that there are people that can listen and be compassionate and hear the fear, because I think so much of what's happening right now is driven by fear. Um, Without the judgment, or at least, to temper the judgment so that we can really hear someone else's story. And
Yeah.
that's a tough, I mean, I feel like right now that's a, I don't know, big hill to climb.
And when we're respectful and we're having we can clarify our positions, right? So I had a great interchange. I have a Substack column that comes out every Wednesday, right?
Mm,
And I talk about everything from mental health to politics to women's rights, family stuff, all of that. And I talked about the most current um, I guess, investigative accounting work that Mr. Musk and his little pals are doing. And I said, I would feel much better if, in fact, they were qualified, they weren't breaking the law, and they weren't breaking and entering, and they weren't firing people illegally. I'd feel a lot better. I'm a former management consultant. I know how to do these analyses, and they've already admitted they're not doing the analysis. They're picking out line items and saying, here. And this gentleman who's a conservative that reached out to me that gets my column said, but hey, Marie, don't you think that there is waste in government? And I said, oh, yeah, that goes without saying. And he pointed out, and this was great, and it helped me realize I need to say it differently is that, hey, I agree with you. We can look at the budget and see where there's some waste and get better, but let's just do it legally and the right way and not just be, willy-nilly.
picking and
And so
choosing. Right, right.
once we had that conversation, he was with me and he was willing to hear me more. So that's an example of give people the invitation to hear you more. And
Hmm.
don't immediately assume, like, don't throw the baby out with the bathwater. There might be something in there in this morass of bad stuff that you both agree on. So
Yeah,
try it, give it
yeah.
a whirl. It doesn't cost anything.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. No, I agree. I think that often we're closer to each other than we might think, in terms of, yeah,
We've
just
all had
humanity and
loss.
what we need. And
We've had all had love. We've all had sadness. Like, let's find those places, right?
yeah, absolutely. And I'm curious, you're an LGBTQ plus advocate. Like, how are you feeling about the state of the administration and what they're putting out there in the world in terms of trans people and like,
Yeah.
how are you managing that in terms of just your own person?
Well, I hearken back to the time when my daughter is transgender. She's a transgender woman. She's 24. And I hearken back to the time when she came out. This is about 10 years ago.
Yeah.
And um, it was a really rough road for us for about 2 years. She was deeply depressed. We were trying to figure out why she was depressed and, you know, uh, through therapists and group activities and friends and all these things, we all, huddled around her. She
Hmm.
finally got to this one clinic that was a day clinic that where she went every day. And about a weekend, she came home and said, um, Mom, I have something to tell you. I think I've figured it out. And I was like, Yay, what is it? And
Mm-hmm.
she said, you know what, Mom? I'm not a boy. I'm a girl, and my name is Evie. And I was like, Yay! It was very exciting because she found her authentic self.
Yeah.
So your question was, how are you feeling? Is that I'm feeling that all these folks that just want to be their authentic self can't now. And they're very
Right.
scared, as is she. Now, here in Illinois, we're very lucky. We're kind of it's a completely protected place, right? For
Yeah.
LGBTQ folks. But
Yeah.
there's only 5 states that are like that in the entire country. So my heart breaks.
Oh,
It
I know.
um every day I think about it and what can I do to make it better? Well, we can oppose this horrible legislation and these overturning of laws and executive orders and all of that. We can work on all of that. But we can also, back to the story idea, we can tell the story of our loved ones. I can tell the story of that I just shared with you, right? And we're a little
Right.
bit closer now because I shared that story, right? Like something about me.
Yeah.
But I can also tell you that um, because of all the things that trans folks go through, she also has been suicidal in her life.
Yeah.
I think we can all understand that the only solution you can see is suicide, that, oh my God, we have to do something about this. And then all of a sudden it becomes this discussion around there are these people that have just found their authenticity. Let them be. Let them just be themselves, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, so the fighting back piece is natural, but also helping people understand that we're all just humans and we're all just being our authentic selves, right?
Yeah.
That's what it is,
We're all just trying to find our way in the world and yeah, be able to live happily or as happily as we can.
right?
Yeah. Well, and I feel like the so much of this sort of othering, like, well, you're this way, so that you're different, and I can't see you as a human, like that to me breaks my heart. But also, I hear what you're saying about, if we can hear the stories and be open to really listening, which I think is, yeah, that's a challenge sometimes. But yeah, I do think that it's so important. I know it's important, and it just I hope others can get there too to be able to listen.
I hope so too. And we all we do is we just keep trying, right?
Yep, yep. Well, tell me a little bit about the most recent book that's about. I think you have a book about to come out. Is that
Yeah,
right?
we do.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, yeah. So my book comes out March 18th. It's called A Life Made from Scratch: Lessons from a Controversial Congresswoman, because I was it.
Yeah.
And that circuitous path, right, is that I was an advocate and an activist and a businesswoman, owned small businesses, was a mom of two, and was an unlikely candidate, right? And I felt so strongly about all these issues, I decided to run for Congress. And so in the book, what I like to do is help people understand when you have this big, hairy problem. I often call it the sticky ball in the middle of the room nobody wants to touch, right? Is that you're
Mhm.
sitting in a circle and there's a sticky ball. Everybody's pretending it's not there and ew. And sometimes you have to pick up that sticky ball, right? And get it out
Mm.
of the room. And you got to fix it. So you got to come up with a good solution. So what I always say is that when you don't see the solutions in the world that you want or need, build it from scratch, right? Book is called A Life Made from Scratch because every time there's been a big hairy problem, I had to build it from scratch. And as have millions of women and millions of people, right? Like I'm not unusual. I just decided to put my story in writing so that people can feel, wow, you can build a national nonprofit from zero with zero. You can run for Congress with no credentials and zero money. Like you
Mm.
can do if Marie can do it, anybody can do it, right?
Yeah.
So I decided to write this book to help people to understand whether it's a social movement in your community, like you have a water problem or a PTA problem or whatever it might be. You can build a movement. Here's how. You can, address a national issue. You can run for office. You can build a small business that fills. I just helped a social impact on a volunteer of mine that wants to build a grocery where there's a complete food desert. And,
Oh,
so that's
wow.
having a lot of social impact in an area that desperately needs it. Filling the void is really important in our lives, is that, whether it is a big social movement or a little one just on your block, cleaning up the block, whatever it is,
Yeah.
we can all create change. So I decided that this book would be about that. It's an anecdote after anecdote, and I share a little bit about the things that I learned, good and bad, because I made mistakes along the way, obviously, right? Um,
Sure.
I now relish those mistakes, and I'm so happy for them because it taught me so much.
Mm.
Uh, and honestly, I have no regrets because I tried everything that I wanted to try, right? I was incredibly lucky that I had the support of my friends and family and was able to do these and try these things. Even if I failed, I was like, well, I had to try it or else I would not have felt that I did my job, right, as a person. And
Yeah.
so lo and behold, when I was leaving Congress, a few publishers said, hey, we'd really like you to write your story. And at first I was like, I don't think
Mm.
that interesting, and and then when they started talking, it's like, well, you know what, you can help people understand how to approach something. And I thought, well, if I can help, then okay, I'll do it. And I
Nice.
did, and then I really enjoyed it. I keep telling my husband, I don't care if it fails. Like I just had so much fun um, remembering things and putting together and doing a little bit of research and then talking to folks that lived life with me, right? And it was very, very enjoyable. So I hope that what it does is those women who are saying, hey, I've got this big life fire. How do I do it? How do I
Mm.
get into it and past it? Um, Here are some ideas. Um, and as a result, what happened, this is the funniest thing. We're talking about the book with my publisher, and he's saying, you know what, Marie, you've had like six, he counted out, he's like, you've had like six things that you have worked on that very few people have. And I was like, really? And so he said, uh, my family has some mental health challenges. So both my kids have anxiety. My husband has depression. My mom
Mm.
has severe depression. Um, and it's very hard to organize mental health in your family, right? Like when you get that
Mhm.
diagnosis, it's like a flood coming at you. And
Mhm.
I've been doing it for 25 years now, so I decided, oh, I could write a little workbook, a planning guide on that. So that's what I did. I wrote the series of six planning guides. The first one was how to organize your family's mental health challenges, and so it's a book that shares, okay, this is where you go for resources. This is how you set up your treatments. This is who you talk to, and then other resources in there. So it helps people organize themselves, right? And did the same
Nice.
um, for supporting a transgender child. I did another one for
Mm.
starting a small business. And then how do you create a social movement, whether it's on your block or in the country, right? How do you run for office? And I'm missing one too. I can't remember the sixth one. So we wrote those planning guides that were kind of adjunct to the big book. So here's my life
Wow.
and how I did it. And then here's some workbooks
A
that'll
little
help.
like supplemental.
Yeah,
Yeah.
get so hopefully that helps.
Wow. Wow. Very cool though, because I do feel, well, being also in the mental health field as well as a life coach, like, which is also mental health, really,
Yeah.
it can be overwhelming and not know where to go. And also working with clients whose kids are transgender and like, what are the steps to take or what not to take, right? Where not to go.
Yeah.
It feels really important to support them.
And
Yeah.
also I mean, as you know, as a mental health professional, one of the things I made it my mission when I was in the anti-bullying space and in political spaces, let's all normalize mental health. It's just like asthma and diabetes. We have a very dark
Absolutely.
joke in our family. So our dark joke is every time someone has a depressive episode or whatever, it's like, oh yeah, I forgot it's chronic. Ha! Like, oh yeah, coming back. Like, because we're
Oh.
all, we've been doing this for a really long time when we're all like, ah, it's back.
But it's true though. It is like to be able to normalize it as like there will it's like I hear people saying, "Well, I just want to be happy." And I'm like, "Well, happy's great, but there's sadness too, right? We grieve as well. We can have joy, but we don't fully appreciate either one unless we're really experiencing them both fully, which not to say I wish anybody to have mental health issues, but it does help you sort of recognize when things are feeling okay, how joyful that can be.
Oh my gosh. And I learned a great thing through my family is because going through all this therapy, I had this, and I'm sure a couple of your clients have been like this. I liked doing this, what I called the up and over is like, okay, problem, problem, problem. I get it. Let's start solving. And I'll just go up and over it. And then I don't have to feel it, right? That's fun.
Yes, that is true. It's
And
true.
so I learned, oh no, Marie, you have to go through it. Like,
Yeah,
so it took me a while because I can kind of be dense. So I finally figured out, oh no, you have to actually feel it. You can't.
yeah. Yep, yep, yep. It would be nice sometimes to be
I
able to
know,
go up and
right?
over, right?
Like you have a little air balloon that takes you up.
Lands you softly on the other side, right?
Loving bed of poppies.
Oh, I love that. I love that. So I'm curious, like if there, like so often, again, going back to making the small steps. So say somebody did want to create some community, I don't know, litter organ, picking up the neighborhood
Right.
or whatever it might be, daycare, something like that. Like how do we push for that movement in small steps, whatever it might be?
Well, great question. So, I just had a dear friend that lives in Seattle call me, and she said, Marie, we have a problem in our schools. They're not ADA accessible. And it's in a very fine school. It's like a great school, right? They're just only like 70% ADA. I
Yeah.
said, he said, and we're, fired up about it. And so I said, well, first, understand your product, right? Is that if that's the issue, then understand really like technically what is the problem? Like, do you know for a fact that you're only 60 or 70% ADA? And she said, well, people are saying that. I said, well, get an expert out there, right? So
Right.
do the research. Every problem starts with research, right? Understand the big problem in the world is disabilities access, right? Understand that problem. You don't have to go super deep, but know enough.
Yeah.
And then get somebody out to quantify or measure the problem so you know the size of the problem, right? These
Hmm.
steps are common to every coalition or social movement that you build. Research, get an expert to measure it for you, and try to. Most will do it for free if you tell them that look, we're just a school group, they'll do it for free.
Hmm.
Um, and then the next step is get a team of folks that feel the same way, so a coalition going. So get 10 parents together in a room and at a meet and greet, have some coffee and some sweets and talk over like, okay, we now know the problem is this big and this is it. How do we go about solving it? And then put together an action plan.
Yeah.
And honestly, that's how I built this anti-bullying movement that I lived in another town at the time. This is exactly how we did it. Measured it, documented
Hmm.
it in writing, met with the school board, then got a group of experts together and a group of parents that were very upset about it, and started talking about it. I can't tell you how important it is to just back to
Bring
telling
it
the
to
story.
light.
Tell the
Yeah.
story out there. When you're at a school event or whatever it is, talk about it. So get the story out there, then start having meetings with other parents and other residents and see if they would be up for supporting this. And then put a plan together because the plan has to be using the research, help the people that fund the fix, the problem, the solution, um,
Right.
how can we do that most cost efficiently? Put that plan together and then present it to the Board of Education and the teachers and the facilities staff, right?
Right.
Um, and so she started doing all that and she got to the final steps and got the plan together. I helped her with the plan. And then, you know what? It took her several months, but she finally got it sold in. And while they wouldn't do all the work, they did the most important ones, the most important fixes. So it's kind of five common steps. So like make sure you really understand the problem at a macro level and then at a micro level, make sure you know the size and the impact of the problem. So in my case with bullying, I actually opened it up via social media. And then when I was out at meetings saying, hey, is your kid being bullied? And sure enough, one night I got 60 phone calls in a town of 30,000 people
Wow.
about very horrifying things that were going
Oh
on in
my
bullying.
gosh.
So honestly, once you open up your kimono, everybody does. It's every
Yeah.
single time. Open up that kimono and start talking, right?
Yeah.
Get real. And then get your compatriots together, the folks that want to be part of your coalition, get them to build a plan and then sell, 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 sell. And you
Yeah.
don't have to be a good salesperson. You just have to tell the truth, right? That's the great thing is just be honest, authentic, and tell the truth. So those are kind of the steps every time you have a problem like that.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
my two workbooks are they're on Amazon. It's Life Made from Scratch planning series, and
Nice.
there's I've got six flavors. So choose a flavor that works for you.
Oh, that's awesome. Well, if people, well, I just want to say I appreciate your breaking it down because it feels like sometimes you can look at like where you have to go versus like where you are right now and how the smaller steps that can take you there, right? It can feel overwhelming to be like, what? I have to go present to a school board about something or whatever it is,
Yeah.
right?
I mean,
Versus like, oh, let me just do the work to get there and the people to support me, which is really important too.
and
Yeah.
it's the one thing I probably forgot is I had a partner all the way along. My dear friend
Mm,
Jackie helped me with anti-bullying. We were both moms that had kids that were being bullied, right?
yes.
Um, and she was really good at all this constellation of things of gathering things and doing this research. And I was a management consultant, so I, knew how to quantify all this and do the other parts of the research. And
Nice.
together when we went in, um, and she had all these contacts in the community. So we were like a great symbiotic pair, right? So find a
Yeah.
partner that's really awesome.
Yeah, no, that and yeah, just to have the support, but also not to take it all on yourself because everybody has different strengths. Yeah, nice. Well, if people
Amen.
want to find you, Marie, I really appreciate your coming on the podcast. If they want to find you and know more about you and your books and your life, where do
Yep.
they find you?
So the probably the easiest way to go is to my website, which is Marie Newman Studio, no S in there. So it's just the words marienewmanstudio.com. No spaces, marienewmanstudio.com. And my books are on there. There's a little bit about me. I do some social impact and healthcare consulting, but largely I'm really centering my focus around helping people with big life fires. And I'm not a coach, by the way. I'm not a life coach. I'm not any of those great, amazing things that you do. But I am good at helping people get organized and making it easy. So
Yeah,
that's why I wrote the big book, so you understand the big anecdote, and then the more granular pieces. So
awesome.
keep going to your life coach and your mental health professionals, but I can help you get organized and actually make something happen.
Oh, awesome. Thank you so much. Thanks for coming on the podcast. It was a pleasure to talk to you today.
Yeah, lovely. It was good, and I'm wishing all of you. I tell all your listeners, I'm rooting for them always.
Oh, awesome. I will. I will. Well, thanks so much.
Okay, have a great day.